Mama. I'm Courtney Cecil, proud mom of 2 boys and an organizational culture and behavior change executive. And I'm a believer in building a movement to help the burned out, overwhelmed working moms reclaim their control and free time so that they can confidently remain in the workforce without losing the sanity or themselves. Now, let's get started.
Hey y'all, I'm your host, Courtney Cecil, and welcome back to another episode of the Life Management System. So in this episode, I am happy to host Christine Landis, and we're going to introduce her in a second, but we're going to spend this next little bit talking about the importance of outsourcing as a form of delegation. And the thing about delegation for many people, even at work, is it is a very hard muscle to build. When you first become manager, you have such accountability and pride over your brand and your product that being able to learn to let go a little bit is really hard, because in some cases you have to relax your standards. Not everybody has your standards or your vision. And that is even harder when you think about your personal life and the way that you manage your household. But outsourcing is one of the critical ways that many of us are able to get more bang for our buck in life. So Christine, my friends, is coming from San Diego. She is the former CEO of a fintech company that concentrated in casinos. Her husband is CEO of a fintech company, ironically, that concentrates in credit unions. So when you take a 2 CEO household, the only way that they can get life done is to get smarter about how they do it. So Christine, I would love to turn it over to you to just color in any details that you think are relevant, but also to explain to me and the audience, what is Peacock Parent? So knowing that Peacock Parent is the new source of energy that is filling your cup up and filling your purpose. Bring us in on that secret too.
Yeah. So Peacock Parent is all about embracing delegation at home and in your home life. We do it at work. We have no problem asking for help, delegating, and if anything, these low joy tasks, even in the workplace. And we don't do it at home. There's this sense of shame and guilt and this pressure, like we should be doing it all. And so Peacock Parent really came from and was born out of my own experience of, as you said, being a former CEO, my husband being a CEO, we naturally ran our household that way with this business mentality of, this is crazy to think we're an expert in everything we do. And so we very naturally did hire our village, so to speak. And I noticed that no one else was doing that and that everyone was really overwhelmed. And at some point, of course, there's a money issue, period. That's the elephant in the room of it costs money to hire help. But I was really on a mission to try to figure out what are the different possibilities and different sources of help out there that for every possible income bracket, it might not be exactly the way I did it, but someone out there, there's a service, there's a professional that can make your life easier, that can feel like there's a little less stress you're bringing into the household. And that more importantly, that low joy task you just hate doing, someone else could do that for you and relieve, again, that stress.
Yeah. So when you think about your CEO career, and when you think about if we are to draw the parallel between our work and our home, if you're CEO of your household, in order to continue doing more, in order to grow, you have to give away pieces. And that is certainly, I'm sure, the case for you in a leadership position as CEO of a fintech organization. I couldn't imagine you possibly doing it all. You wouldn't have gotten to the point you were, where you were in a position of leadership, where you're in a position to sell. I can only imagine that that you knew and you lived that just as much at work as you did at home.
Absolutely. And that's really what, again, came so naturally for me. I think part of the reason is I sold my company and got pregnant 3 months later. And so this transition into parenthood, I was used to systems. I was used to, again, building teams. And so for me, I didn't really call it my village. I called it just my home team. And so I would meet, we had 2 nannies that we hired. We have weekly team meetings on Mondays, and, we use Trello just like I did at work, and I use that at home. And we're all about getting on the same page together, and not just for the task, but also the kids. A huge part of it is if you're going to ask for help, whether it be from an in-law or, again, hiring it, you want to make sure you're all doing the same things and being consistent for your kids. But yes, in the world of business, we are the first to admit we're not experts in everything. And yet as parents, we put this pressure on ourselves that we're supposed to know it all day one when we're handed a baby. And just because, yes, we have this miracle of being able to create a being from our bodies, that's incredible. But it doesn't mean that you were naturally gifted with all of this information and all of these resources that you need, a newborn care specialist, the night nurse to help you actually sleep at night and feel rested and not totally burnt out by week 3. There's so many people that know so much more information than you. And I think that's one of the first steps in reality of really embracing delegation, is that it's less about the investment of money and really the return on investment is time, but it's about understanding and accepting, like, I'm not the best at this, or I'm not the expert. Maybe someone else knows better about potty training, or, the behavioral therapy we may need, or creating systems at home, whatever it may be.
Yeah, experts hire experts. I'm a believer in that. As Oprah did not get to where she is overnight. She hired experts to help her get there. Tom Brady did not get to his kingdom overnight. He hired experts to help get him there. So, huge believer in that. You also talked a little bit, I call it concentrating on your highest and best use, because I tell my clients, your highest and best use is not drowning in laundry. Your highest and best use is to be a mom and to be a partner to your spouse, and to be a great professional that will eventually bring you more money to allow you to even outsource even more. But the point being, your highest and best use, unless you love it, is probably not laundry. So one of the things that I help my clients with, use the word systems. I help build systems. I help people figure out, what is it you prioritize? What is it you're good at from a skill perspective? And then concentrate their energy there, because when you figure out, not everybody has 2 CEOs in a household, so it makes it a little bit harder. But when you get really clear on what it is you prioritize, what it is you're good at, and what your highest and best uses are, then it starts to make that more attainable vision. Like it starts to lay that out for you. So you realize, I don't have to get rid of it all. I just have to get rid of this one thing that's nagging me, that continues to drain me, whatever it may be. So when you think about, let's put kids aside, maybe, you guide this conversation here, Christine, but when you were in the throes of day job working, when you both were, how much were you actually getting rid of for yourself at home? Were you outsourcing anything at that point?
Without kids in the mix?
Without kids, yeah.
No, not much. We had a housekeeper, but there was no family assistant. There was no need for as much household management. Like, I joke in one of my guides about, like, we had enough food stocked in the refrigerator for like late night nachos sometimes. It's like we didn't have. There was no one else we had to think about. It was just the two of us, and at any time we could either get Uber Eats delivered or go out somewhere to grab something, make grilled cheeses. Like, it was such a singular life, and we didn't know any differently. But yeah, once all of a sudden, truly coming home from the hospital and having this human that you have to take care of, and it was the pressure of time that I felt so strongly. The fact that I didn't have control over my time at all anymore is what I think inherently made me tap in directly to, okay, I'm clearly, I need help. Like, I can't sit here for 12, 15 hours a day in this house on this couch and not leave. Like, that's just not going to make, that's not me in my happy place. And that naturally led me to what you were talking about, defining to me what is my low joy task. And it's different for me than it might be for my husband. And that was really important for us to talk through and figure out, if I don't like doing it, then do you like doing it? Okay, you don't like doing it either, then all right, then we need to hire someone to do it. Because if neither of us are willing to do it, but we know it has to get done, then, for us, and again, as you said, with our household income, it wasn't just a matter of Rochambeau, or even a fair play conversation. It was very much, all right, well, then we need to find someone that can help us. So that's one less thing on our plate.
Yeah, that, and what I actually did not know that. So Christine and I are internet friends that have developed and intentionally developed a relationship over the past year. And I did not know that about you, Christine, that you didn't outsource beforehand, which tells me and should tell everybody that's listening, parenting is freaking hard. Like
Mhm.
it is so much harder. So you have this house with two CEOs that are no doubt completely swamped on a day-to-day, just from a work capacity perspective. And yet, even though you sold the company before you had kids, you're saying, hey, guess what? Parenting is tough. And the only
Mhm.
way that I can be at my best for my kids is to figure out how to do things differently. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Very
And
powerful.
I love that you asked that because I haven't even thought about it. At this point, it's 5.5 years ago. But I was thinking, I don't even think I did online grocery ordering. We were still going to the
Wow.
grocery store, but we weren't cooking every night either. We just had more freedom of our time. There was so much more spontaneity, so much more freedom in how we spent it. We were traveling a lot for work. Um, but yeah, now we plan our week out. We now do it on Fridays. We used to do it on Sundays, but every Friday we sit down for a full hour and we sit down and think about, okay, what are we having for dinner? Who's available for this and that, whatever it may be. So it's so much more thinking ahead that is required. And again, when we do that at work, back to your point, is we are comfortable with goals. We're comfortable with analyzing, again, our time and the profit margin onto different decisions. Who even should be invited in the meeting because, hey, every person there, their dollar per hour value, does this person really need to be in this meeting or not? It's like we're so comfortable spending those times making really, smart decisions in those moments. And then at home, the idea of sitting down to plan your week with your partner, even if it's only 50 minutes, 45 minutes, like kills people. That thought, they're like, ew, gross. That feels so bad. Like, I don't want to do that when I'm home. I'm home. But yet that 45 minutes, that 50 minutes of planning will do wonders for, your mental load, and it'll help share the load where necessary, or at least come to the same page, like I said about, hey, we both don't want to do this, or hey, we both don't want to go to that birthday party, then all right, we're not going, and or whatever it is, you really can more quickly decide where's the value here.
Yeah, so you said something. I am a big Eve Rodsky fan, so please do not misread this. Love Fair Play, highly recommend it for some people if that's really the source of their issue. But I think it's, to your point, it's so much more than that, because the reason that I start my clients with, hey, what do you value and prioritize? Very similar to the hypothetical example you're talking about with, like, hey, I don't enjoy this, my husband doesn't enjoy this. Let's get it off our plate. I think that's a worthwhile conversation too, because it's in my mind, it's not just about us thinking our team is only two people big. It's
Mm-hmm.
including our kids in the size of our team. It's including extended family if you're lucky enough to have it, which we do not. So we had an au pair. We had to think about the au pair like that. It is your neighbors. It's the other parents that are in class with your kids. It's all of those other things. So outsourcing does not have to cost money. But what you do need to consider is, what do you two believe you can and should take on versus give away? And then the planning is absolutely critical. I have a client that I'm working with now, actually, it is a very novice idea to have the Sunday day sync, to say, hey, what's going on this week? Where do you need to be? Where do I need to be? And I'm having my kickoff conversation with her to onboard her into my program, when she's saying that, that when I realize that that's not a habit they have, I'm thinking, oh boy, like, just with that one single change, even if you get rid of nothing, if you take the time to plan with your partner, it opens up the door for so much streamlined peace throughout the week.
It does. And not let it get rescheduled. Like we have it as a reoccurring calendar reminder on our shared calendar. So it's something that if for some reason there was a conflict due to like a travel, work travel or something, we reschedule it. It's not just like deleted off the camera or the calendar. And
Yeah.
I think that's really important both people have to treat it equally as far as the priority of that meeting. Something else, from my perspective, I actually have family in San Diego. I have my dad who's still living, and I have two, in-laws, Rob's parents. And it's not, I had the choice of relying on them. He's 79 years old, so that would have been a little tougher. But, my in-laws were willing to help. They did help with with my husband's sibling, I think for me, it was a little bit more of a feeling of I actually wanted an employee. I wanted more of that employee-employer relationship, a little less where I had to maybe feel like I had to tiptoe or walk on eggshells or explain myself. I also wanted a little bit of freedom to know that like, okay, I can make my own mistakes or I can kind of, do this, on my own terms sounds like a little a little bratty, but it's more that I just wanted to be able to have the freedom for my husband and I to kind of work things out in our own house. And I think the other thing that I found incredibly beneficial of an employee relationship was I wanted someone with experience. I wanted someone to educate me. It wasn't so that I could boss them around and tell them what to do all the time. It was actually quite opposite. Like I was turning to them and saying, can you teach me everything you know? Because like you're the newborn care specialist, or you're the nanny that has the childhood education background that I specifically hired for and was a preschool Montessori teacher. So, our kids now 1.5. Can you talk to me about choices within limits? And so we would sit in these team meetings and she would really be educating my husband and I on again parenthood at large and kids and child development and all sorts of good things. So it's something that I think is a powerful choice, and one that is typically frowned upon or not done as much because I think the natural inclination is your village should be family, and that's the only way. That's how it was done and that's how it should be. But your village can be what you make of it. It's your housekeeper is a part of your village. Like if your online grocery, like Amazon, quite frankly, is a part of your village. Like it's just
Yep,
like when you
amen.
really think about all of these different sources of help that you're getting, it might not seem obvious, but there's a lot of it already you're probably outsourcing. That's just it's so streamlined in your head that you don't even think about it now.
Yeah. I love specifically that you called out the value in an employee-employer type relationship. I did not have family here that I was able to pull from. That is part of why we invested in an au pair. But also I made that intentional decision to bring in an au pair, and even before then to bring in a nanny, because it allowed me more agency over how their time was used too. So I think, a lot of people assume that, oh, I'm going to go the free route, I'm going to use family, but the family relationship comes with a cost. And that cost might be the tension in relationship. The cost might be you not being able to grow into yourself in the ways that you just acknowledged, Christine, like you and your husband getting to learn and build your own path. The cost might come in what else they're not going to get done while the baby's napping, as an example. So one of the things that I loved about my au pairs and my nannies, and the sole reason we went that route instead of daycare route, is one, it was just as cost effective with 2 kids in daycare as it was to get an au pair. So if given the 2 options, I want the flexibility of the au pair, but more importantly, when the boys are sleeping, I want them to be able to help around the kitchen and with the laundry and all the other things, where when you use daycare, that doesn't become an option. So I think that oftentimes people also think very singularly, unfortunately, about leveraging daycare or leveraging a family, when one of the things that I try to talk to new parents about is think very strategically about the childcare option you choose, because you will end up, there are pros and cons of every one of them. And it's not that any of them are good or bad. It's just, you have to be super clear once again on what you value and what you prioritize, because that will inform whether or not which of those 3 options is best for you.
And I absolutely think of our nanny as a family assistant, and we pay her in that regard, but we really, I mean, that's how I've assigned from day one tasks, like you said, while they're sleeping, whether it be crock pots, doing laundry. When we hired her, I literally spelled out the 3-prong approach was, we need you, yes, to help raise our kids in a safe environment, but also, to help educate us as parents, like we talked about already, and help as like a personal assistant. At the time I didn't really know the family assistant name yet, but I just like, there might be dry cleaning I need you to pick up, which even that's something now I just have delivered to my house, and I don't even waste the time of having her drive back and forth somewhere. But
and sorry, I'm going to double click on that part, Christine. Real quick. you are also there saying you value her time. Like you are paying her by the hour or whatever, like you are paying for her time in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an important part of this that you are intentional in treating their time like it is your time, because for every minute that they're doing something, it's 1 minute you don't have to do it.
Exactly. And I remember specifically talking through the dry cleaning that it wasn't just the act of dropping the dry cleaning off. It was, this relates a little bit to the Fair Play Rodsky, where she goes through, there's different steps to every task. And I was like, but my biggest low joy task is probably transferring the dry cleaning off the metal hangers and putting it on my cloth hangers and getting all that wrapping off of it and all those things. And so I was like, that's what I want your help doing, and to organize it in my closet. And someone's like, that's so crazy. I'd feel so weird asking my nanny to do that. And I said, well, I mean, it's either you doing it or she's doing it. And then who's hanging
Yeah.
out with your kid? So either
Yeah.
you're going to do this while she's watching her kid for you, or you're going to be able to hang out with your kid after a long day of work and she's doing that for you. But
Amen.
like either way, she's on the clock, and you're paying her. And as long as, and I stand by 100% of, you need to make sure you're paying this person. If you're going to ask them for some additional help around the house outside of only childcare duties, then you might need to raise their rate by an extra $2, $3, $4 an hour. So that's a separate conversation, but there needs to be agreement, I guess, is that the end of the day, first and foremost, of the expectations of the job. But that's really what it comes down to for me. Is I've had them set tables, I've had them put decor out, like a tablescape, and unload like the
Mhm.
pumpkins for the fall season on the table, take the trash out to the street. Again, it's fine to ask them to probably take like a diaper genie out, but yet if you ask them to take like trash and recycle out, that feels like beneath them. But it's like, again, it all comes down to the conversation, the expectation from day one of you're taking it out or they're taking it out. It's
Yeah.
one or the other. And as long as they understand that's their role and they're okay with that, and you've been clear about it, then that's again what we do in our household is, and why we really call them family assistants.
Yeah, I really love that you called out the importance of setting expectations. That is in fact something that I work with my clients on when I have the long-term clients I work with and building a complete life management system, but I also have a mini package where I help train people, how to outsource, the type of interview questions they have, the profile of person they need to have. But one of the things that I speak very significantly on is the process of setting expectations and being clear with that. Because when you do that up front, it alleviates all the attention downstream, because they are then choosing the job, choosing that responsibility despite knowing what they have to do. So being able to say like, hey, what's off limits to you in the very beginning, or what's
Mhm.
non-negotiable for this job, in order for them to accept it, is in a very valuable conversation to have, because then it dissipates any resentment that might build. Because to your point, if it's the dry cleaning wrappers and hangers for you, then that is worth getting rid of if it's something you value.
Mhm.
And that's, yeah, actually, ironically, just yesterday, the women inside my group program were meeting, and one of my clients, um, she is struggling to figure out what to get rid of, and yet every single week we're having the same conversation of there's not enough time. And I was like, friend, you have to recognize that it might only be, if, because she said in that conversation, it only takes me 15 minutes
Mhm.
to do this task or to do that task. I'm like, yeah, but when you think about your workday, you think about 24 hours. You are asleep or doing essential items for half of that. You're working for half of that. And then that leaves you this tiny, tiny, tiny window, about an hour and a half to 2 hours, to do all of the things that you want with your kids, for yourself, whatever it may be. So yeah, you might think it's only 15 minutes, but that's 15 minutes that you're not spending on yourself or with your kids.
Mhm.
So I'm working with her on how to create that list of stuff as she goes through a week, and learn to just be at peace letting it sit there, because that's part of the problem. Going back to where I started with us, delegation can be a very hard muscle to build, but
Mhm.
it is an absolute muscle. It is hard when, especially so many of the women that I work with, and probably you too, Christine, are very type A, high standards, high powered, high, like running at full steam. When you run your household like that, it's really hard to just let the thing sit and know that it's
Mhm.
not perfect. but like that is a muscle that needs built in order to be able to let go and be able to spend the time doing more of the things that you want to do versus not do.
Yeah, I think capability and availability are two of the things that stop people from delegating because they don't take into consideration their joy, and because like you said, they're used to just kicking ass. They'll take care of it at work. They'll get it done. And of course they can do it. They have the 15 minutes, but no, it's hard to invest in your own joy. And especially as a parent, I find that to be really the biggest hurdle of delegation. And part of the reason on my platform at Peacock Parent, we talk about, planning for joy and really identifying what it is you're trying to free up time for. And once you understand why and what you're going to get out of it, then it's easier to kind of go, okay, well, I really don't like this thing. And if that means I get to do that, then okay, I am going to let someone else do that 15-minute task for me. And that's worth paying the extra $5 for Uber to come and pick up my returns for me and not have me drop by the UPS store or whatever it is. So, but yeah, shoulds, capability, availability, those are really the top three that are just stop us as parents and especially working parents from taking that
especially
leap.
Moms in particular, because moms do not invest in themselves. They are so selfless, and God bless you, moms out there. But at the same time, like, we deserve this too. We absolutely deserve to live the one life we get to live.
I know. And I think another part of, the struggle with delegation is that judgment that it's not just from other people, but it's really yourself. Again, you're like, I am capable. I can do it. I have the time. What am I doing instead? But it's that, like, giving yourself that permission to just say, like, no, it's okay that I don't love bath time. Like, that's my example that, is not a popular one, because I know like it's so maternal to think of a mom giving her babies baths and, all that, but it's just not my happy place. It gives me more anxiety. I find myself a little bored. I'm crouching down. It's so I oftentimes have our nanny give the bath, but then I swoop in after they're done and I get all my cuddles and I help them get in their pajamas and brush teeth and then do books. And that's where I shine. And that's when I come back and give my full energy. But that's just an example of like a 20-minute activity that I take a rest. Like, I have my dinner with the kids and then they go up with the nanny, they get their bath, they know this is their routine. And again, I think it's just this feeling of permission and not letting yourself get judged by anyone, including yourself. And that's really hard.
Yeah. And particularly, I actually, ironically, just this morning, I released a podcast on lowering expectations during the holiday. And what I talk so much about is that so often the expectations are superimposed on us because of society, because of other family members, because of keeping up with the Joneses, because of what we're seeing on social media. It doesn't, like, all of this is projecting onto us. And that's bullshit, because similar to you, I hated bath time. I was happy to give that away, happy to give it away. And I love that you specifically called that out, because it is our life. It's not somebody else's life that we're living. And we are the ones that have to own creating and curating what we want it to look like. And it's unfair to expect others to do that because they're caring about themselves. So, Christine, when you think about, it sounds like you do give away a lot of pieces, and particularly the ones that are either not your highest and best use, or to your point, are, they're experts that you're consulting, whatever it may be. What do you believe are the biggest ROI items that you give away? And why? Is it for you, or just the reason you get back?
So let's see. I mean, emptying a dishwasher, definitely the dry cleaning. I mean, those are all little things that I just super low ROI as far as the term, or as far as the joy. UPS returns, any of the Amazon stuff we return, all the online grocery ordering. I have the thing that I've invested in this last year that has completely changed my I think energy and even just my truly pure joy has been getting a private chef. So we have someone that comes 3 days a week, and he is in charge of all the meal planning in our house at this point. He stocks the refrigerator, just I don't even have to tell. I get to literally walk in on like Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays and be like, hey, what are we having for dinner tonight? Like, I don't have to think about it. And the
Mhm.
mental load of that, and like I said, we used to, my husband and I would sit down on Fridays and we would plan out like, hey, what are we going to have? And we'd put it in the calendar. And then I'd
Mhm.
go through and either delegate some of that to our nanny to then order the food online or, start making the crock pot or whatever it may be. But that, all of those steps getting completely eliminated and putting all of that into one person, it's $550 a day to have someone like that in your house. Totally a luxury, totally not something I'm claiming everyone can do. But it's been a true game changer for us.
That would be. And while that might not be financially feasible for everybody, I will say there is an element of that that can be. So my biggest ROI item is also the person who comes and cooks for us. And I've looked at a couple different people. We continue to use our old au pair because she knows our style, our cooking style, and she's really good. But there's probably certainly a penny difference between Charlotte and San Diego. So let me call that out. But also, we approach it a very different way, and that makes it work. We have her come once a week, and we're doing the planning and that sort of thing. That's in part because I'm a picky eater and I want to have that kind of control. And like we're the ones that know our social schedule and whatnot. But she'll come in on one day and knock it out. And
Mhm.
so it's a very economical way to approach the same kind of thing. But moreover, the reason I do it and the reason that I love it so much is those little monsters that we're raising eat all the freaking time. So I had like considering that it's something that is a daily necessity from them, and because we value health, like I don't want them eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day. I want them to have a diverse palate. I want them to be exposed to richer foods. I want them to be eating healthy. I want them to have the variety, and I don't want to have to do it myself.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it just goes to say, you said earlier in the conversation that there's a price point for everybody. There's a way to make outsourcing attainable for people. There is certainly a perception that there is privilege associated with it. But I want to check that privilege that we both have. Even you and I are in very, very different lands as it relates to what we're able to outsource and what we're able to afford. However, I do believe so much of it comes back to priority for people, because
Mhm.
I can help you get rid of a lot of stuff for 5 hours a week for $100 if you'll let
Mhm.
me. But most people would prefer to, like, if you say that you can't afford it, it's because you prefer and are prioritizing spending that $100 somewhere else. Because most
I
people, not everybody, can afford $100.
Yeah, I just started doing this or that series through Instagram more just because it
Oh,
like tickled
I love
me.
that.
But it
Yeah.
was like, like a family assistant or, season tickets to a sporting event or,
Ooh.
and sort of like jewelry versus a newborn care specialist, or new shoes or a new handbag versus like a meal prep chef. And
Mhm. Oh,
so,
I like that.
there are things, and given all those were like expensive examples, but there is a way of really thinking and changing again, how do you value your time and how do you what brings you more joy? And maybe for someone, and this has been what's so tricky about this, Courtney, is that some people might be like, no, I want that effing purse, or, I want that
Yeah.
vacation. And that's
Yeah.
more worth it to me than having a meal prep chef. I'll just go to the grocery store, whatever. I don't care. And that's
Yeah.
fine. Like
It's a good
that's your
though.
choice. And that's the point. Then own
Yeah.
it. Great.
Yeah.
But then it's hard, I think, for people like you and I, because then we go, okay, but then don't complain to us about time. Like we
Right.
provided you options and you're choosing, this other thing. And one more thought I had was about the mother-in-law stuff, like circling back to that for a second is I think something I didn't realize and what I was trying to capture is I didn't want to feel judged. I think that I felt like in front of my mother-in-law, I would have had to probably, be more energized, or maybe like, I wouldn't feel as comfortable leaving to go to a nail appointment, with my
Mhm.
newborn there, or, taking time for me to just read whilst, the nanny hung out with my newborn and did tummy time. And it wasn't me doing tummy time every single second. And I think that's like kind of early on what I was more willing to acknowledge, is just be like, that's why I kind of wanted that space, I think. And she's the most lovely woman. I actually don't think she would have judged me, as the truth. It was more my shit, of like me
Yeah.
judging myself that I had to work
Yeah.
through. And I think that's, again, such a huge part of the essence of Peacock Parent, of, again, this permission to hire your village and really just own the fact that it's too much for one person to do, let alone two people. It really is. And it's okay that you want some help or you don't want to do certain things, or if they don't bring you joy.
Well, also, like, to your point, it truly is too much for two people, which is why for generations and generations and generations, women have stayed at home and not worked, or they have literally physically co-located themselves with their family or with a physical village to help raise kids because it
Mm-hmm.
is too hard. And one of the things that we know to be true as working moms is that if we as women did not yield so much of ourselves to child raising and to making ourselves available and to take care of so many of the little things, then society would probably collapse. Because truly, most organizations, most men are dependent on the flexibility and the sacrifices that women make, and it's just so freaking unfair. but that, unfortunately, that is where we are as a society. So I just think it is our duty to care for ourselves and to allow, like, the more that we get rid of, the more that's not our highest and best use, the more we're able to be at our best and not burn out and actually stay in the workforce, and
Mm-hmm.
slowly over time start to shift this trend to where there really is balance in the household. You still probably can't do it all with the two of you, but even
Mm-hmm.
getting to a point where there is some sort of balance for ourselves is like we're after the basics here for most
Yeah.
people. Um,
Yeah. And I think staying in the workforce, that's something that, and let's see, I'm like avoiding politics at all costs, but it's more just for, I think, real change to happen. There needs to be more women that own very large corporations that have enough influence and power at a very higher political level. We need an Elon Musk for women,
yeah.
quite frankly,
Well, and
like,
also, but
and
it's
so
all the
we
more
can't,
reason to get rid of stuff, though, because if people cannot, like, oh, this is what I tell all of the new moms. Like, we need you to stay and work in order to become the Elon Musk that is able to just put, like, he does whatever the heck he wants.
Mhm.
And we need a woman who feels so bold that they're going to completely right the societal norms that exist now. But it's impossible to get there without outsourcing. Like, this takes us back to where we started. And
Mhm.
I love it. I love it. So, okay, before we come to a close and get to my lightning round questions that I ask guests, we are in the middle of holiday season, Christine. So what are things that come to mind for you that you believe are easy for people to outsource in order for parents to just feel more present at this time?
So let's see. Just in the last couple weeks, we were out of town for the holidays, for the Thanksgiving holiday, and I had our weekend nanny. She ordered a tree to be delivered to the house, two Christmas trees, and one of them she decorated herself in the living room because that was like more of our fancy, like, look good tree. And then the other one's in the kitchen, which is for the kids and I to decorate with all of our, like, special ornaments. And so that one she left and just put lights on. But having that done was huge. Um, I had her organize and coordinate getting lights put on the house by a service. Um, Gift wrapping. I did a ton of ordering of gifts for our kids so that she could get all that wrapped while we were gone and the kids were out of the house, so that I didn't feel like I had to stay up late at night and do that after they were in bed, including like vendor gifts and home vendor gifts, all that, executive team stuff. Like, I had to wrap all of that stuff so it's super easy that she can just mail that off to some of my husband's executive team.
Mhm.
What else? Gosh, I mean, honestly, the meal prep for our entire Thanksgiving dinner, I had our chef prep everything for us, including ordering a turkey through that was like pre-made from our local store. And I just had to, like, reheat things the morning of and make like a couple things on the stovetop. But
Mhm.
there's more. I mean, those are just like the ones that honestly we just did. So they come to
Yeah.
mind. But
Yeah,
what
that
about
pre-made
you?
food. We were just chatting about this before we started recording, but my mother-in-law was sitting there making the pumpkin pie. She spent all morning. She's visiting me from DC, and she spends all morning making these pumpkin pies that taste exactly like what we got from the grocery store. And don't get me wrong, they were delicious. but so are the things we can get at the grocery store. And they're probably 50 cents more expensive, but it's 50 cents like for the entire morning she could have been spending with family. So amen to the pre-made food.
Mhm.
Also the gift wrapping, that is one thing I think anybody should be able to do unless it brings you immense joy. Get rid of that. There is a high schooler down the street that would love to make
Mhm.
$50. $50.
Absolutely. Your babysitter, like you could,
Yes.
again, make sure the expectation, ask the babysitter, hey, do you want to earn an extra $20 or whatever it is, like
Yes.
$50 even to your point, like, hey, do you mind doing this after the kids are in bed? Or hey, while they're watching a show that you're just here to make sure if there's a fire or
Yes.
earthquake, like, can you do some gift wrapping in the other room? Like, I even a task rabbit, honestly. Like it's just one of those things like people, again, I think the assumption is I'm supposed to love gift wrapping. It's the holidays and this is like all part of it. And if that really does give you joy, then great.
Mhm.
But otherwise let it go, and
Yeah.
just do the thing that you enjoy doing and all the rest of it, find another way.
Yeah, well, speaking of things I don't enjoy, so one, I definitely do not enjoy bath time, as you said. Like by the time my au pair left and we had nobody to bathe the boys, I'm like, y'all got to shower. Like, like, I'm not doing bath time. You got to figure out the shower thing. But for me, it is the Christmas tree. I'm obsessed with Christmas. I'm obsessed with my house being decorated. I actually don't mind decorating the rest of the house and make a big show of it with our house managers, but I really hate decorating the tree. And it feels like I talk a lot about giving away the big pieces, particularly to our male counterparts. Like I try to give the big pieces away to my husband, but the Christmas tree is a big piece I give away to the kids. So I'm a big believer in the 10-80-10 rule. Like I set the vision up front, I buy all the things, we'll make the tree look like I want it to look like. The boys come in behind me, they decorate the tree, so that middle 80%, and then the last 10% is me coming in and being like, why are there 3 of these things here and there's a big hole up top, but it doesn't give me joy, so it's got to go. It's
Mm-hmm.
got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Christine, on to our lightning round before we drop.
Okay.
First, what is your biggest stress busting activity?
Oh, I'm a big adult coloring fan.
Ooh.
So it's probably started 2 years ago and I'm like for real obsessed with it. But I will, like on a plane right now, I either am reading a book, but half the time I end up just coloring. And I do that at least, I'd probably do it daily. I mean, if not daily,
Wow.
every other day.
It's
And
probably
it's
very
these
meditative for you.
mandalas. Yeah, and these like glitter pens, and it's my version of meditation where I'm just like I
Yeah.
don't have to think about anything. I'm just kind of breathing, and of course there's thoughts going on, but it feels unstructured and yet beautiful and productive.
Yeah. Oh, I can totally appreciate that. That is the one. My
Yeah.
youngest son is big into coloring and always like, hey, you want a friend? You want me to join you?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, and my
What?
my kids love it too, and so it's nice. Like we really do like parallel play with each other, and
Yeah.
then
Uh-huh.
then when we do have little conversations sometimes, which is really nice, but it's like again
Yeah.
less like pressure for them.
Right. Okay. Next, what's the last book or podcast you loved?
Oh my God. Okay. So Fourth Wing is this book about dragons. And my best friend was reading it. And every time I reached out to her all year, she'd be like, oh my God, I was just reading my dragon book. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
swearing on. But it's like this dragon book by, oh God, what is her name? Yara, somebody. Anyways, it's a whole craze. It's like a combination of like Harry Potter meets like Hunger Games and then like a dash of 50 Shades of Grey.
Uh-huh.
And it's truly is great and it's Fourth Wing, love it, suggest it.
I
Um
feel like everybody I know has been obsessed with it. I'm not sure I can do the fantasy to that degree, but
I
I
know I
I
didn't think
know
I
that
could
like I can't knock it until I try it because everybody's been obsessed with it. So
I know.
you're in good company. Um, okay, well, speaking of magic, if you could wave a magic wand, what task would you eliminate forever?
Oh gosh. I mean probably bath time.
Yeah.
Even showers, I still think I would include that in there and just be like the whole having to get cleaned up. Like somehow
Mhm.
if there's like, I don't know, like I want like Cher's closet, where it's just like it gets you dressed automatically and like gets you ready. And so I think not just even for my kids, but for me too. Like if there was some way that like you could like that hour of time to get ready in the morning and even for kids to get like dressed and all that, that's what I think I would get rid of. if I had a
100%.
magic wand.
We are spirit animals, Christine, and I feel like every conversation we have, it's more validating. But for me, I answer these the very first time I had a guest and asked her. Mine was 100% my getting ready routine. I hate it. I hate it for myself. I hate it for the boys. Like
Mm.
it is such a waste of time. And it only gets worse as you get older because you have to do all the creams, all the things.
Uh,
So high
I know, my
maintenance.
lotions and potions. And then for a while, I just cut my hair recently, but I was doing like my bun for a while, and it was like purely because I didn't wash my hair for 3 days straight. And so I would just spray all this stuff in it to like make this like bun get more and more massive on my head so that I could just put it up really quick and not have to wash my hair. But yeah, that would be it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so before we get off, tell everybody where they can find you.
Instagram, Peacock Parent, or our website, peacockparent.com. And we have a fabulous blog and giveaways. We would love for you to subscribe. And we have a new product coming out called Smart Match. And it will be matching you up for free to really the village that we think fits your lifestyle, your delegation style, and your budget. And then from there, you can decide if there's anyone you want to kind of match up with or hook up with, and go from there. But that's coming out January 9th.
Ooh, I didn't realize the official date. Congratulations.
I know. Thank you.
I'm excited for that. I'm so excited to partner with you on that. Okay, friends, if you have not yet gotten my time wasters guide, so Christine and I have spent the past 45 minutes talking about the value of time. And so often people believe that the biggest time they waste is on things like social media. And don't get me wrong, that is a giant time suck, but I promise you, you're wasting more time than you think on things you don't realize. So if you have not seen my top 10 time wasters guide, you can get the link in the show notes, or you can get it at www.workingmomsmovement.com/time-wasters. Would love if you share this podcast with a friend, subscribe, rate and review us. It's going to help continue to get us lift and help bring more moms peace everywhere. But until next time, friends, if nobody's told you lately, you're doing a great job. You got this, mama.